On his birthday, my son said he never wanted to see me again. What happened next was unbelievable. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air felt thick, heavy with unsaid words and tension. I could almost taste the bitterness in my throat. He stood there, his face twisted with anger, the cake between us melting under the weight of his emotions. It was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it felt like a funeral. I watched as his hands trembled, fists clenched tight by his sides. My heart raced, a panicked drum in my chest. Memories of family dinners flashed through my mind, laughing over spaghetti, sharing secrets under the stars. Now, silence loomed like an unwanted guest. His friends whispered behind him, their eyes darting between us, uncertainty painted across their young faces. "How could you?" he spat, the accusation slicing through me like a dagger. My breath caught in my throat, the lump growing larger with each heartbeat. Tears threatened to spill down my cheeks, but I blinked them away. I was his mother. I was supposed to be strong. I stepped forward, reaching out, but he recoiled, as if I carried a disease. My chest tightened. I could hear everyone, the rustle of clothing, the sharp intakes of breath. Each sound made it worse. It felt like being on the edge of a precipice, the ground beneath me crumbling. "Why did you tell me?" he shouted, the words echoed in the stillness, striking me like lightning. In that moment, I understood the depth of his betrayal. It wasn't just about today, but everything that had led up to it. Secrets tangled like weeds in my mind, choking the air from my lungs. A year ago, I had made a choice, and now it was coming back to haunt me. Amidst the chaos of emotion, I saw his face, a mixture of hurt and rage. My son. My baby boy. The little boy who used to crawl into my arms and cry, who believed I could fix everything. What had I done? As if the universe itself felt the weight of this moment, a sudden breeze rushed through the open window. It felt cold, unnatural. I shivered, and for a heartbeat, everything seemed to pause, frozen in a perfect slice of despair. Then, the door swung open. A stranger stepped in, interrupting the storm of anguish. I glanced at them, eyes wide, breaths held. Who were they? Why were they here now? The air buzzed, thick with anticipation, and something about the stranger felt off, like a dark omen. Then it happened. My son's eyes widened in disbelief. "You," he exclaimed, pointing a shaking finger at the newcomer. His face fell, the color draining from his features. My heart thudded, panic spreading like wildfire. What was unfolding before us? What secrets were ready to burst from the shadows? I stood, frozen, 1,000 questions swirling in my mind. What did this stranger want? Why was my son reacting like this? My world was crumbling, and yet the true mystery lingered, just out of reach, waiting in the darkness. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The stranger took a step forward, the air around them crackling with tension. I felt the temperature drop, as if the very essence of the room shifted. My son's face mirrored a mix of shock and confusion. I wanted to scream for answers, but my voice was lost amidst a cacophony of fear and uncertainty. "How could you come here?" my son asked, his voice barely above a whisper, trembling with emotion. I turned to look at him, wanting to comfort him, but I felt too lost in this unexpected tide. The stranger remained still, their expression unreadable, shrouded in a flicker of shadows. In that moment, I felt the world collapsing around me, a kaleidoscope of memories, laughter shared under the pale light of the moon, bedtime stories whispering dreams into his innocent slumber. Now they all felt tainted, jarring reminders of a stage we would never return to. Every smile, every hug, now tethered to this moment of revelation. Then, without missing a beat, the stranger spoke, their voice low yet filled with an intensity that held everyone captive. You don't understand the full story. It's not just about you. Each word felt heavy, laden with unsaid truths. My son's disbelief transformed into fury, anger bubbling just below the surface. Not about me? You have no idea what you're talking about. His fists clenched tighter, a physical manifestation of the storm brewing within him. I wished I could erase the pain from his heart, the betrayal twisting inside him like a serrated knife. The room fell silent, the tension palpable like a taut string ready to snap. I could feel the weight of our friends' and family's expectations pressing down, a collective gaze filled with confusion and suspicion, like unwanted judges at a trial. I turned to the stranger, desperate to grasp their motives, their intentions. They seemed ancient, like a chapter of a forgotten book come alive to haunt us. Listen to him, the stranger urged, their gaze boring into my son's. You think you know the whole truth, but there are pieces to this puzzle you haven't seen yet. He deserves to understand. A sliver of doubt wormed its way into my heart. What did I know? The choices I made seemed right at the time, but this? This felt like a reckoning I hadn't anticipated. My world was no longer black and white, and I was losing the narrative thread that once woven my family's story. My son spun toward me, eyes wild. Is this true? Did you know they would show up? Did you bring them here to hurt me? Each accusation he hurled was like a splinter embedded deep within my soul. I opened my mouth to defend myself, to explain, but the words caught in my throat like stones. What could I say? Before I could gather my thoughts, the stranger took a step closer, the sharp scent of polished wood and something dark surrounding them. It's time to uncover what was hidden, the reasons behind choices that felt inescapable, they said, their tone softer now, almost comforting. My heart raced. Maybe this was the moment I had both dreaded and secretly hoped for, a chance, however slim, to begin unraveling the truth, to find the thread that could stitch us back together. But at what cost? Would the revealing shatter everything, or could there still be fragments of hope scattered in the wreckage? I didn't know they'd come, I finally whispered, my voice trembling. I thought I could protect you from this. Saying it felt like a betrayal in itself, a departure from the mother I tried so hard to be. Silence hung heavy in the air. My son's expression darkened, betrayal flashing in his eyes. Protect me? He echoed, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. You think keeping secrets is protecting me? You made me believe in a lie. You shattered everything. Each word struck like the sharpest of arrows, piercing me right where I was most vulnerable. I felt tears welling, blurring my vision as I took a shaky step back into the wall. At that moment, the stranger reached out a hand, breaking the tension, a gentle gesture, hesitant as if afraid to startle a wild animal. Changing this narrative is possible, but it begins with truth. My heart raced as I absorbed their words. Truth? More pieces to fit into the puzzle? Could we bear it? Stop. My son yelled, his voice a barely contained storm. Don't you dare act like this is for me. I don't need any of you telling me who I should be or what I should feel. He turned, fists still clenched, the grief and fury a churning tempest. Every breath felt labored, the stakes had never been higher. My heart broke as I watched him slip deeper into his turmoil. Just then, from the corner of my eye, I noticed movement out in the veranda. A figure blurred past, but I couldn't focus on who it was. My heart raced anew, warning me that something was awry, something uninvited was approaching. I glanced back at the stranger, who now stood silently, bearing witness to this unraveling chaos. It felt like the calm before an earthquake, and my anxiety climbed. Would we emerge from this moment battered but united, or broken beyond repair? And then, with a sudden rush of clarity, I found the words within me, the truth that had been buried beneath a mountain of guilt and fear. Wait, I began, the revelation shimmering just outside my reach. Before I could utter another syllable, the door flung open again, and two figures rushed in, their faces pale with urgency. What I saw next turned my blood cold. The acknowledgement in their eyes held a truth darker than any secret I had guarded. They were here with news that would ripple through our already fractured world, news that would shift the landscape of our lives forever. My hands trembled as the gravity of the moment coalesced around us, a tight knot of dread woven into the fabric of my heart. This battle for resilience, for understanding, was far from over. The real storm was only just beginning. The newcomers spoke in hushed tones, clearly overwhelmed, but abrupt urgency permeated their words. "You need to listen. It's about your father," one of them said, their voice cracking, urgency evident in every syllable. My heart sank. The mention of his father felt like a thunderclap, an echo that threatened to bring down everything I thought I had shielded my son from. "What are you talking about?" My voice wavered, fear rising to overshadow the hope that had flickered in my chest moments before. I turned to my son, eyes wide with alarm, the storm brewing stronger in his dark gaze. "You need to stay calm, just listen to them." "Calm?" he shouted, every syllable bursting with raw emotion. "How can I stay calm when my whole life feels like a massive lie? What else is there for me to learn?" The stranger who had first stepped into our lives looked between us, assessing our spiraling despair like a witness to a tragedy unfolding in slow motion. I could feel their presence like a tightly coiled spring, waiting for the right moment to unearth the type of truth that could shatter neat facades. "What father? The one I've never met?" My son shot back, his voice trembling yet fierce, a young lioness defending her territory. "The one you never wanted me to know?" I opened my mouth, prepared to speak, to explain the intricacies that had led to these monumental decisions. The shifting currents of emotions pressed against the walls of my soul, guilt intermingling with the anger I felt at my own naivety. I could see the edges of my son's trust starting to fray, and I felt powerless to stop it. "Listen," urged the newcomer, and I noticed their hands trembling slightly, almost as if they were bracing for impact. "Your father is in trouble. He has been trying to reach you, but things have changed. You might be in danger because of him." The word danger ricocheted through the room, pausing our breaths mid-air. I could see the flicker of confusion transform into fear in my son's eyes. "What do you mean?" It was barely above a whisper, fragile yet demanding. 15 years ago, there were decisions made, and he lost everything to protect you both. But now the newcomer paused, the weight of unsaid words becoming a heavy fog over us. "He needs to see you, to explain. But there are people looking for him. Dangerous people." I felt as though the floor had opened beneath me, and I'd been hurled deeper into a chasm of chaos. My body went cold, the reality crashing upon my shoulders like a tidal wave. "No. I can't let him near my son. I've fought too hard to shield him from the shadows of our past." My son shook his head, stepping toward the newcomer. "You expect me to believe that? After everything? Why now? Why would he want to see me?" "Because it's the only way to heal the divisions that have kept you apart. Everything is tied to the truths that must be unearthed," the stranger replied, their face reflective, haunted by memories that felt far too familiar. The silence that followed was stifling, the air thick with lingering fears and untold stories. My son looked back at me, anguish flickering in his eyes. "Are you going to let him drag us through this? He abandoned us." "Sweetheart, please," I begged, my heart aching. "You don't understand, it's complicated." "Complicated? What does that even mean?" "You made choices, and now they're all coming apart at the seams." His voice broke slightly, the dam of his emotions threatening to overflow. "But there's still time, there's still hope," I pleaded, each breath feeling weighted with the enormity of our situation. My words felt desperate, hopeless, as if they'd slide away from me like sand through an hourglass. "Time for what?" My son spat, the anger flaring anew. "For more lies? More secrets? I'm done with this. I need to find out the truth. It's my life, isn't it? Your life is at stake." I countered, the urgency in my voice pitched to a crescendo. "This is not just about what you want. If your father is in danger, so are you. They could come for you." The tension felt electric, a static charge laced through every unspoken word. Just as I thought it couldn't get worse, my phone buzzed fiercely in my pocket, a notification that sent a chill down my spine. I pulled it out, my heart dropping as I saw the message flash on the screen. They know where you are. You need to move. Now. This isn't over. My son yelled, throwing up his hands, filled with a desperate defiance. I'm going to find out what's happening. I can't stay here. Before I could stop him, he turned and stormed toward the door, leaving a silent chaos in his wake. I felt my pulse race. What had I built? And what was now about to collapse? I glanced at the stranger, whose expression remained fixed, as if they had seen this moment before in their own life. You have to follow him. There is so much more at stake, and losing him isn't an option. It's time to face the truth, no matter how terrifying it may be. With every ounce of conviction within me, I took off after my son, fear propelling me forward but also the flick-hop of hope that somehow, we could emerge from this darkness, forged anew. But even as I dashed through the door, a voice echoed in my mind, a harbinger of what might soon arrive. The past has a way of catching up with us, whether we are ready or not. And then, in the dismal silence of the otherwise ordinary day, more footsteps sounded in the distance. Gunshots. The chaos outside was an unrelenting cascade of confusion and terror. I barely registered the gunshots, the crack of sound reverberating through the streets like thunder on a storm-laden horizon. I pushed through the door, the air heavy with the scent of impending danger and my own fraying spirit. Eli! I shouted, my voice cracking as I chased after my son. His name echoed, a plea, a desperate call into the shadowy corners of our reality. But as each hurried step took me further from the sanctuary of our home, I felt the familiar threads of our lives unraveling, becoming something unrecognizable. He was fast, fueled by a burning need to dissolve the fog of lies that surrounded us. He dashed down the alley 2 steps ahead, never turning back to see the panic that clouded my face or the tears that brimmed at the corners of my eyes. Stop! I cried out again, my heart pounding louder than my footsteps. The alleyway loomed ahead, littered with debris and shadows, the perfect hiding place for secrets I never wanted to confront. I closed my eyes for a fraction of a second, the weight of it all now suffocating. Memories of laughter, fleeting moments of joy, slipped away under the harsh reality of our situation. Then, a flicker. A light? I opened my eyes just in time to see Eli stumble, a knee grazing the ground. I rushed forward, panic clawing at my throat. Eli! He looked up, his face radiant with frustration and betrayal. Why can't you just let me figure this out? His words dripped with hurt, yet behind them lay a plea for understanding I had failed to provide. I'm trying to protect you. I shouted, desperation cutting through the air. Your father is dangerous. They say he is in trouble, but I don't know how deep it goes. You don't understand. I'm not a child anymore. Eli shot back, scrambling to his feet and shoving past me. I need to know the truth, even if it scares me. If you want to help me, then I'll go alone. Don't you dare walk away from me. I choked, feeling the jagged edge of fear slicing through my heart. But the words hung between us, an invisible barrier of mistrust formed by years of choices I thought were right. He started to walk back toward the street, his silhouette framed by the eerily dim light filtering through the alley. A whirlwind of regrets swirled in my mind as I remembered how hard I'd fought to keep him shielded from the past. But maybe it wasn't the past that haunted us, it was the choices I'd made along the way. Suddenly, a car sped down the street, the headlights piercing through the murkiness like a predator locking onto its prey. My instincts kicked in, a long-forgotten tenderness surging through every cell in my body. Get down! I yelled, instinctively pulling him low behind a dumpster just as the vehicle screeched to a halt. The door swung open, and a figure made its way toward us, tall, cloaked in darkness, the outline barely holding together under the faint street lamp glow. My heart raced, a drumbeat of fear combined with a desperate need to protect my son. Mom, who is that? Eli hissed, his voice barely above a whisper, eyes wide. I don't know, I breathed, panic threading through every word. We need to leave now. But before we could move, the figure let out a low, chilling chuckle that echoed ominously. You've both been running for far too long, they said, voice dripping with cold familiarity. Your father wasn't the only one who has been waiting for this moment. Just then, a sudden gust carried with it the scent of gunpowder, and a small group of shadowy silhouettes emerged from the dark corners of the street. My breath caught in my throat, a wave of dread unfurling within me. "Eli, we have to go, now," I urged, scanning for an escape route, but the walls began to close and the alley felt smaller, the figures blocking our only way out. "What do you want from us?" Eli shouted, his voice wavering, blending defiance with fear. The leading figure stepped forward, revealing a glimpse of their face, and all the air slipped from my lungs. A face familiar yet foreign, a ghost from my past, one I thought I'd never see again. "You're not the only one searching for truths," they said, a smug smile dancing on their lips. Who are you?" I stuttered, my heart drumming painfully against my chest. "You know exactly who I am, and I have what you've been too afraid to face," the stranger replied, their gaze unwavering, locking onto mine with a conviction that sent shivers down my spine. "But the real question is, how far are you willing to go to uncover it?" A silence enveloped us, each breath heavy with uncertainty, tension threading the very air we shared. Above us, the distant wail of sirens and shadows stirred in the night, waiting. As I looked at Eli, I could see the dawning realization flicker in his expression. This was more than danger, more than the past catching up. This was our moment of reckoning. And I was left wondering if we would fight our way through this or be consumed by the storm of secrets that had taunted us for far too long. The tension around us thickened, an unyielding fog of nostalgia and fear. Eli trembled, caught in a tumult of confusion, while that familiar face loomed closer, the features more vivid than memory had allowed. I felt the world narrowing to this moment, every choice I'd made, every lie I'd told clawing at me like 1,000 angry hands. "I don't understand," Eli finally shouted, desperation breaking through as he turned toward me. "What do you know about this person?" The stranger chuckled, a low sound that echoed against the brick walls. "Oh, I'm just a reflection of the woman who tried so hard to erase the past," they said, their voice smooth as silk yet laced with venom. "You've hidden the truth from him, but it's time he heard it all. What will you say when he finds out who you really are?" "Stop," I snapped, my emotions teetering on the edge. "This is not about you or your games. You don't know anything about us." "But I do," the stranger pressed, stepping even closer. My heart raced. I could now distinguish the jagged scar running along their cheek, a reminder of a past I had long buried. "Eli deserves to know the truth about his father. He deserves to know why you've been running." In that moment, as Eli searched my face for answers, I felt the walls of my resolve begin to crack. "Eli, please." My voice trembled. "This isn't the place or time for this conversation. But I need to know." Eli's frustration erupted, his youthful fury mingling with the panic of our situation. "If there are things I should know, I deserve to hear them. I'm not a child anymore, Mom." The air between us felt like a whip, tension crackling and ready to break. Suddenly, one of the shadows behind the figure stepped forward, clearly agitated. "Enough," they barked, voice like gravel. "We didn't come here for this. Let us move on before they bring heat down on us." "No." My heart raced. This was no longer just about my son and me, it was an abyss threatening to swallow our very existence. "Eli deserves the truth. He has the right to know who we are and who he is." The figure before me smiled knowingly, an uncaring observer to the chaos that stitched itself into our very beings. "Wise choice," they remarked nonchalantly, leaning against the alley wall like they owned the night. "You see, Eli, when your father and I were close, there were secrets we shared. Secrets that might make you rethink everything." "Mom, please." Eli's voice cracked like an unsteady bridge. "What are they talking about?" I took a step toward him, desperate to connect in the midst of the deluge. "Eli, your father and we had a life before you. And it wasn't right. It was dangerous. He made choices that forced me to make mine," I breathed, tears welling in my eyes. "But I did it all for you. I wanted to protect you from the shadows that haunted us. I thought it was enough." But what I saw reflected in his gaze wasn't understanding, It was betrayal mingled with a longing for clarity so profound it ached. How could you take that choice away from me? Before I could respond, the leading figure shifted, their tone suddenly serious. Time is short. If you're going to decide to come clean, you'd best do it now. We have eyes everywhere and ears listening in. The clock is ticking, and answers won't come easy. Eli looked from me to the figure, his brows knitted tightly. For a moment, I lost him in the haze of dread and turmoil, lost the boy who laughed at the little things and seen magic in everyday life. Now, maturity soaked through him like a vice, tightening until I could scarcely breathe. Mom, was my dad a bad person? He whispered, urgency piercing through his bravado. What could I say? My words felt heavy, boulders in a stream unable to carry their weight. I loved your father, Eli. The confession slipped out like a plea. But love doesn't always mean he was good for us. It doesn't mean he wasn't dangerous. The stranger scoffed mildly, a flash of annoyance across their face. Dangerous? Or simply a pawn in a bigger game? Either way, Eli deserves to know that the choices of his parents extend beyond just two people. As I grappled with the rapid-fire thoughts swirling around, the darkness beyond the alley felt more alive, like an unseen beast keenly aware of our fear, our hesitations. Sirens held in the distance, a reminder that the world outside our bubble was still in chaos, still out of control. The moment crystallized, the air vibrating with uncertainty and emotion. Every breath was heavy with the unsaid words, the missed opportunities, the laughter I knew we'd never share again. Then, with startling clarity, Eli took a step backward, his resolve hardening like stone. You know what? I don't even care anymore. A deep breath, a tremor of bravery threaded through his voice. If he is dangerous, then I have to see it for myself. I want to meet him. No, Eli. Panic clawed at my throat, but his expression was determined, so stark and unwavering. You don't know what you're saying. Maybe I don't. But I can't keep living in your shadow. If the truth hurts, then I need to embrace it. His voice quivered, but in this vulnerability, there was something so resolute, a flicker of courage I hadn't expected. As he turned toward the waiting shadows, my heart raced, pounding against my chest in desperate beats. Eli, wait. I cried out, stretching my hand out as though to grasp hold of the very fabric of our lives before it unfurled into chaos. But the weight of that moment pressed down on us, a storm raging just beyond the darkness. No more lies, he said, his back turned, the weight of his decision looming like a thundercloud, heavy and oppressive. And I knew, in that instant, everything was about to change and I was powerless to stop it. As he stepped forward, disappearing into the veil of uncertainty with the shadows, a moment of piercing realization gripped my heart. What had I done to him? What ghosts would he unearth by seeking the truth I had tried so hard to hide? And as if the universe recognized the weight of our choices, the distant sirens drew closer, signaling a shift. Something was about to shatter. Eli! I whimpered, only echoes answered my cry. The weight of silence enveloped me as Eli's form melted into the shadows, leaving behind a cavernous absence that echoed through the alleyway. My heart raced, a metronome in a symphony of heartbreak, and my breath sounded ragged in the cool night air. I could still feel the chill of the bricks against my back, a stark reminder of the walls I'd built to protect him, and now I had failed to maintain them. Do you see what your lies have done? The stranger taunted, their breath like frost as it billowed into the air. You took away his choice, and now he's demanding his destiny. He will carve it out himself, even if that means running straight into his father's embrace. Shut up. I spat, anger flaring like a wildfire in my chest. You don't know anything. Oh, but I do, they leaned closer, wicked amusement dancing in their eyes. I've walked those streets. I know what your precious boy will face, and he is not prepared for it. Not like you were. Enough. But inside, uncertainty coiled itself around my heart. The truth I had buried was writhing, clawing for air, for expression. Every warning bell rang in my ears, drowning out everything except the deafening fear that Eli was making a mistake. A slick nostalgia bulged forth his laughter, his awakening curiosity, but now they were tinted with shadows I had tried so hard to escape. Desperate, I fumbled into the alley's mouth, searching the darkness for a glimpse of him. Eli! Come back! My voice carried, thin and shaky. Each call reverberated off the alley walls, returning to me heavy with surrender and doubt. I told you, the stranger drawled, folding their arms across their chest. The truth will find him, whether you're ready or not. I remembered the day Eli was born, how I had held him for the first time, that beautiful amalgamation of innocence and possibility, unaware of the world he would one day inherit. I had wanted to shield him from everything that had festered in the corners of my past, but now those shadows were preparing to reclaim him. In the space where Eli had been, now stood uncertainty and dread, an emotional mire. I felt that familiar urge to fold into myself, to cover my ears and pretend the world outside didn't exist. But I knew that wasn't an option. Whatever storm brewed on the horizon, I wouldn't let Eli face it alone. I sprinted into the abyss, each step echoing like thunder in my ears, hands shaking, heart pounding with the dread of unanswered questions. The faceless shadows of the alley multiplied, and I felt a sudden chill seep into my bones, a reminder that the night held secrets that would not wait. A figure emerged further down, illuminated under the flickering glow of a street lamp. Their back was to me. Eli? I called, hope blossoming and withering in equal measure. He turned, face pale, eyes shadowed by the depths of unresolved pain. Mom, I can't just stay in this fog of ignorance anymore, he said, voice trembling but resolute. What have you done? I breathed, panic bubbling up as I took a step closer. I only asked for his name, he replied, the fire of defiance flickering just behind his eyes. What is so wrong with that? I want to know, even if it hurts. Eli, think. This isn't just a name, it's a context, a history that might betray anything you've ever believed about us. My pleas filled the air between us with desperate urgency. What if he's not the man you imagined? You've avoided answering me for too long. Eli cut me off, looking every bit the young man focused on unraveling the truth. What if he's all I have left? The gut-wrenching ache twisted me inside out. It's not that simple. He has a darkness that I don't want you to see, I pleaded, aware that my voice wavered under the weight of emotion. There was movement from the shadows near the alley's entrance, a shape that filled the darkness like an ominous cloud. I barely caught the stranger's expression as the tension of the moment wove itself deep between us. Eli, they hissed, their voice a chilling whisper that cut through the air. If you want to meet him, your father is already waiting. But be warned, the truth comes with a heavy price. What do you mean? Eli's voice quivered, and fear crept into his words like a lurking fog. I reached out to grasp his arm, wanting fiercely to prevent him from stepping forward, but as I opened my mouth to speak, a bustling sound erupted in the darkness, a cacophony I could barely identify. Sirens blared closer, the vibrant flash of lights flickering against the alley walls. Panic knotted my insides, and I realized whatever decision Eli made, it was about to unfold with terrifying speed. The figure shifted, revealing an expression of malevolent satisfaction. Looks like the past is finally catching up with you, isn't it? Eli! I shouted, tearing at his sleeve in a frenzy, the urgency electrifying the air. But it was too late. Curiosity mixed with desperation had sealed his fate. Through the chaos, Eli's gaze was locked, a battle between fear and the alluring call of the unknown. I want to know. And suddenly, before I could process the impending danger, Eli broke free from my grasp, stepping toward the looming figure. The line between past and future trembled, as something deeper than both hung in the air, something dark and unforeseen, and just when I thought I couldn't bear the weight of uncertainty any longer, I heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching, heavier and more urgent than I could have anticipated. The shadows morphed and shifted around me, a foreshadowing of what was to come. Eli! I screamed, the name tearing from my core, but he was already lost among them, a whisper in the night. As the sirens held to a crescendo, I realized this was just the beginning of a journey into a darkness I had tried so hard to shield him from. And no matter how much I yearned for the truth to remain buried, fate had other plans. That fateful moment held my heart in its grip, dangling between the remnants of love and the looming specter of despair. The question lingered thick in the air as dread slipped into my reality: what would be the cost of truth? And as the figure beckoned Eli closer, an undeniable certainty washed over me: nothing would ever be the same again. The air crackled with tension as the figure lingered, almost tauntingly. My heart raced as the shadows enveloped Eli, a shroud of uncertainty hanging around him like a dark cloak. I could see fear flicker in his eyes, but it was overpowered by a desperate thirst for the truth that thrummed in every breath he took. "Eli, don't!" I shouted again, desperation spilling from my lips. The sirens grew louder, their wailing a reminder that time was slipping away beneath the weight of choice and consequence. But my voice was a threadbare lifeline, thrashing against the tide of fate as he stepped further into the dark. What if he is a monster? I dared to whisper, recklessness bubbling in my throat. The years I had spent constructing walls, disguising fears, flashed through my mind: every lie I told, every smile I forced when doubt shadowed my thoughts. Cruel truths had a way of gnawing at the edges of the heart. "I need to find out who I am," Eli said, an unfaltering resolve settling over his features. "You always taught me to confront my fears, didn't you? Isn't this what you wanted for me?" The memory of those encouraging yet hollow words echoed through me, infused with bittersweet nostalgia. I had always wanted him to be brave, but at what cost? "He's dangerous, Eli." A surge of warmth clawed at my insides, desperate to shield him. "You don't know what you're asking for. He could ruin everything you've ever known." And in that heart-stopping moment, as the figure grinned with cold indifference, a horn blared nearby, a reminder of the sirens, of impending chaos spiraling toward us. Suddenly, the shadows pulsed with a life of their own, shifting and swirling, stirring memories I thought were buried alongside my regrets. But before I could process what was happening, Eli turned to me, his gaze piercing with youthful audacity. "Better that I find out about him than learn through whispers or rumors, right? I want to face the truth, not hide from it." A tumult of emotions crashed within me, a collision of fear and pride. As a mother, I should have held him back, grasped him tight and reminded him of the dangers lurking ahead. But as I looked into his eyes, so full of fire and determination, I understood that moments like this could not be controlled or contained. "Eli, please," my voice broke, threaded with the weight of affection and despair. Before I could finish, he reached towards the shadowed figure, extending his hand in a misguided gesture of peace. "Maybe he isn't a monster to me," Eli whispered, his tone daring to bridge the gap between them. In that blink, time seemed to fracture. The stranger's face fell momentarily into a thick mask of something deeper: pain, anger, longing, perhaps? And I felt the asphalt beneath my feet shift. Reality folded around us, quaking under the intensity of choices unmade. But just as Eli's fingers brushed against the figure's, a sudden explosion of sound reverberated through the stillness. The rushing sirens burst into the alley, blinding lights igniting the darkness, and chaos erupted. The figure recoiled, darting into the shadows like a wraith, slipping away into the veil of night as if they never existed. "Eli!" I cried out again, panic coursing through my veins. The weight of impending loss loomed before me, and in that instant, I could feel the bond between mother and son stretching, straining like a tightly pulled string about to snap. With the figure vanished, the most haunting understanding settled over me. Until now, my fears had been rooted in the past, but now I realized they had multiplied, entwining themselves into the very fabric of our future. Eli stood at the edge of the chaos, torn between who I wanted him to be and who he yearned to discover. His eyes were wide, reflecting uncertainty, but also a glimmer of something more profound: determination. Before I could take a step towards him, the alley light flickered ominously, and a low voice emanated from the dark corner where the figure had just stood. "Did you really think he'd let you walk away from this?" The voice echoed, chilling in its clarity. A feeling of dread pulsed through my veins as I turned toward the voice. And there, standing among the swirling shadows, was another figure, this one more intimidating, cloaked in dark layers of intent. The smirk on their face was as unsettling as the flutter in my chest. "Welcome back to your reality," they murmured, their voice slithering around us. "Time to face the music, dear mother." My breath hitched, eyes darting between Eli and the new threat. Panic pierced through me like shards of glass, and my conviction hardened. I knew this was just the beginning. Whatever game they were playing, it was a high-stakes gamble I hadn't signed up for, but I couldn't abandon Eli, not now. With the threads of destiny unraveling before us, heart pounding, a single truth rang in my mind: I had to protect him, even if it meant confronting the past I had tried desperately to escape. Eli, oblivious to the deeper implications of our imminent capture, turned to me, uncertainty swirling in his gaze. "I'm ready to know," he said quietly, but I could see the doubt lurking just behind the words. As the darkness crept closer, a chilling realization gripped me: it was too late. Not only had Eli stepped deeper into the night, but I too had walked beside him, blindly. Suddenly, from the chaos of swirling shadows and distant sirens, a figure emerged, and dread enveloped me like a suffocating blanket. I recognized them. My heart sank as memories crashed upon me like stormy waves. That voice, that face, I'd thought I buried them long ago. And just before the shadows swallowed us both, I heard Eli's voice rise above the chaos. "Mom, who are they?" The question hung heavy in the air, an emotional cliffhanger echoing through the alley, begging for truth yet haunted by terror. My heart raced in panic. The revelation was upon us, but I wasn't ready. The past had returned with a vengeance, ready to rewrite everything. The alley reverberated with silence after Eli's desperate inquiry hung in the air like a sniper's bullet. The shadows danced restlessly, twisting and curling around us as if they were alive, eager to consume the light that remained. My heart thudded painfully in my chest, fraught with the weight of the truth that shimmered just out of reach. "Who they are?" I whispered, my voice barely louder than a breath. The words clung to my throat like a boulder, heavy and suffocating. It was a truth I had attempted to shield him from, to erase his existence from our lives, and yet here we were, painfully at the crossroads. I turned slowly to face the figure that loomed, their face half hidden by shadows. Recognition punched the air from my lungs. I had expected ghosts from the past to haunt my dreams, but never had I thought they would materialize, imposing themselves at a moment of unimaginable vulnerability. What had I done to bring us here? How had I lost control so completely? "Do you see, Eli?" I asked, my voice quavering. "This is the darkness I tried to protect you from. They're here because of me." The new figure stepped closer, expelling tension with each stride, their posture framed by a confidence that spoke of a history I would rather keep buried. "And look at the fine mess you've made, dear mother," they said, their voice smooth but dripping with disdain. "Hiding, pretending, don't you see? The truth always finds a way to claw its way out." "Shut up," I spat, glancing at Eli. He was still frozen, his youthful face twisted in confusion and fear. "You don't have to listen to them, Eli. We can leave." But before I could finish, the stranger laughed softly, filled with an edge that sent a chill racing through me. "Leave? Where would you go, dear mother? The past has come to collect." They looked to Eli, the menace in their gaze sharpening. "Your little exploration would lead you both astray. Aren't you curious about who your mother really is? The sacrifices she made, the choices she hid from you?" Eli's anguish was palpable, his gaze bouncing between the figure and me, uncertainty unfurling like a shadow at twilight. "You said we would face the truth together, Mom. I want to know what you're hiding." The words sliced through me. This was more than a culmination of our shared fears, it was a bitter revelation of trust hanging in precarious balance. "I was trying to protect you," I said, desperation etching every syllable. "I didn't want you to become entangled in my mistakes. This darkness, it's not meant for you." The figure rolled their eyes, dismissive and contemptuous. Such noble intentions. And yet, here we are, tangled in fate's merciless grip. "But don't worry, I'll make sure you both enjoy the ride." My skin prickled with threatened repercussions, the very fabric of the evening thickening with emotional turbulence. Eli was perilously perched between wanting to confront the shadows of the past and the nurturing fear I had always embraced. "I don't want any more lies, Mom." Eli's voice cracked, wrought with painful honesty. "I deserve to know who I am." A flood of love and regret surged in my chest, and in that moment, I wanted nothing more than to shield him from the truth that lay buried beneath the bones of past choices. Eli, that knowledge could change everything. You don't want that burden. But the weight of his yearning for clarity was a tide I could not hold back, and with every beat of silence, the pressure of revelation bore down upon us. Then came the cruel realization, if we didn't confront this darkness, it would consume us both. What if I tell you everything? I said hesitantly, my heart thundering, each beat slicing through the heaviness of uncertainty. What if I show you where it all began? The figure before me smirked malevolently. Oh, wouldn't you like that? But don't think for a moment that you are in control. The truth has a price, and perhaps they hesitated, relishing the moment, you will be forced to pay it in blood. A gnawing dread began to form in the pit of my stomach, my thoughts racing to the worst nightmare. Realities I could imagine. Please, Eli, you have to trust me. As the shadows thickened again, I felt Eli edge away from me just slightly, his insatiable curiosity wrestling with the fear of falling into the abyss of what awaited him. What blood, Mom? What price? His voice trembled, and in that moment, I recognized the frightened child who still resided within him, the one I had vowed to protect at all costs. Whatever you do, I whispered, meeting his fearful gaze with as much reassurance as I could muster, don't let them take you. Promise me. Eli hesitated, and in that split second, the dark figure swooped in, dragging an icy finger alongside the walls of our fragile bond. Enough with the sentimental nonsense. Let us see how strong your promises are when the truth is laid bare. And with that proclamation, the ground beneath us trembled as shadows reached out like clawing hands, threatening to rend our souls apart, shattering the remnants of all we had ever known and loved. Time slowed, and I felt my heart break as I understood the undeniable weight of the moment, not just for me, but for Eli, who stood at the precipice of understanding but also peril. Without warning, darkness surged forward, wrapping around us like chains, and I screamed. Eli! But it was too late. The shadows surged, the figure cackled, and the truth became an avalanche, roaring down the mountainside of our past, leaving only an echoing silence behind. Then came the voice again, resonating softly like a haunting lullaby, ready or not, here it comes. And before I could comprehend what would follow, a harsh light enveloped us, promising the dawning confrontation I had dreaded, a glimpse of a reality no one was prepared for. Eli's hand slipped from mine as the world around us erupted in darkness. The last thing I saw was the look in Eli's eyes, a tumult of emotions spiraling like a whirlwind, before everything went black, the sound of chaos consuming us whole. The darkness faded slowly, and as the world gradually came back into focus, I was struck by the sudden absence of Eli beside me. A cold panic surged through my veins as I spun around, heart hammering. The new place we found ourselves in was surreal, an endless expanse of dusk-lit shadows that dripped like molten ink from the walls of an invisible space. My breath quivered in my chest as I felt the weight of the truth bearing down on me, a silent whisper that fueled my fear. Eli! I called, my voice shattering the oppressive stillness, an offering to the void. Each echo returned with a mocking emptiness that gnawed at my heart. I staggered forward, instinctively urging my trembling limbs into motion, searching the dark corners, desperately hoping to find the light of my son's presence. The path beneath my feet felt alive, pulsing with a rhythm that harmonized with my racing heart. I could feel stares hidden in the shadows, cold and judgmental, as if the past itself had come to life, daring me to confront what I had concealed for too long. You were meant to protect him, it seemed to say in unison. But where is he now? I stumbled deeper into the suffocating abyss, the silence thin and eerie, punctuated by distant whispers that slithered through the air. The haunting intensification of those murmurs twisted my gut into knots. Eli! I screamed again, my voice raw with desperation. But there was no response, only the lingering echo of my own grief spiraling into the infinite darkness. The boundaries of time and space seemed warped, leaving me trapped in a terrible limbo where every shadow whispered the promise of the truth I had fought against. As I ventured onward, a flicker of light danced in the distance, drawing me closer with its warmth. I reached forward, fingers trembling, and stepped into a small clearing that opened up before me, lit by the glow of a dim lantern. Panic shifted to hope as I spotted a nearby figure. "Eli?" I called, my voice bruised yet urgent. As I got closer, however, my heart sank. It wasn't him. Instead, a girl with wild, tangled hair and wide, soulful eyes stared back at me, her lips trembling as she hugged her knees to her chest. Her presence was both ethereal and haunting in this land of shadows. Where is my son?" I asked, bewildered by her vulnerability. "Please, have you seen him?" The girl shook her head slowly, eyes filling with an understanding that felt too deep for the moment. "They took him. The shadows, they take what they want." Her voice was soft, but I felt its weight crash against my heart. "And they want the truth." "What truth?" I demanded, shaking my head in frantic desperation. "I didn't bring him here. I was only trying to protect him." "You can't protect him from who he is." The girl's words sliced through me with a startling clarity. "The truth lives in everyone, and it will fight to come alive. It will claim what is owed." "No, no. I won't let it," but I faltered as her expression morphed into compassion, and in that moment, I realized I wasn't just unraveling the truth of my past, I was also unraveling the truth of Eli's identity. Before I could probe further, a soft light began to emerge behind the girl, and shadows danced sporadically, as if wrestling to keep their hold on this place. "There is something you should see," the girl said, her hand guiding me toward the light. We walked together, and the closer we got, the clearer the shapes became, revealing scenes from my past, fragmented moments etched in time. My heart raced as memories morphed into images of joy and pain, of choices that had once seemed right but now felt like an insurmountable burden. Suddenly, we halted before a scene that took my breath away, a younger version of myself, eyes bright with hope, cradling an infant. The scene pulsed with the echoes of laughter, yet something sinister lurked behind that joy, a shadow that lingered just outside of view. The girl's whisper broke through my thoughts. "They didn't just take him, they're after you too. You hold the key." Before I could process her words, the darkness roared anew, more feral than before. From the shadows, a figure stormed into view, an ominous silhouette against the backlight, followed by a guttural laugh that resonated painfully through my chest. "It's time to let go." The figure taunted, arms outstretched as if to embrace the past. "No!" I shouted, instinctively stepping forward to shield the scenes of my past, but the shadows converged, creeping toward us both. "History doesn't forgive," the figure proclaimed, and in that moment, my heart plunged into icy despair. "Not for you, and certainly not for your son. The truth is a debt, and debts always need to be paid." As the shadows began to squeeze tighter around the edges of our reality, I clutched at the girl's arm, desperation swirling within me. "Help me!" But suddenly, the girl's eyes shifted with fear, and she whispered a single word that froze my blood: "Run." Before I could react, the abyss surged, swallowing her silhouette in a swirling tide, cutting off the flow of light and hope. The laughter grew louder, ringing with cruel intent as I felt my own breath hitch in my throat. My heart thundered as realization crashed down. I was not just battling my past, I was failing Eli by remaining ensnared in the very darkness I'd sought to escape. But no more, I thought, grasping the glimmer of determination igniting within me as the shadows loomed ever closer. I must find him. I had to confront the truth, once and for all, or risk losing everything. Just as I prepared to step forward, a deep rumble shook the ground beneath me, and the figure's shadowed grin widened. "Are you really ready?" The words reverberated through the air as the ground cracked open before me, a palpable void that threatened to swallow me whole. "Eli!" I screamed one last time, my voice breaking, reverberating through the dark chasm. But in that moment, as the fracture widened, a sudden flash of light surged upward, and I felt a jolt of warmth envelop me. The light flickered like a heartbeat, breaking through the tendrils of despair that sought to consume me, and then I heard it, the unmistakable sound of Eli's voice, thin and shaky, calling out in the distance, drenched in fear yet laced with hope. "Mom!" As the darkness roared in protest, the light burgeoned, pulsing like the promise of a new dawn. But just when I thought I could reach him, the shadows clawed at my feet, pulling me back into the depths. Would I be able to save him? I felt the pull of the shadows like icy hands clasping around my ankles, squeezing with intent to drag me deeper into the darkness. But within me surged a fierce determination, fueled by Eli's voice echoing through the void. "Eli!" I screamed, my resolve hardening like iron as I fought against the suffocating grip that threatened to swallow me whole. "I will find you." Drawing from the depths of maternal strength, I visualized every moment I shared with him, the laughter, the hugs, the sacred moments that stitched our bond together. I anchored myself to those memories, using them as a shield against the darkness. "You can't take me!" I shouted defiantly, battling against the weight of my past that hung like a shroud around me. With every ounce of willpower, I tore free from the grasp of the shadows, pushing through the darkness until I felt the light pulsing like a beacon ahead. "Stay with me, Eli. I'm coming." I charged down the darkened path, weaving my way through a labyrinth of despair, the dim glow drawing me forward. Finally, the shadows began to dissipate, revealing a clearing bathed in ethereal light. Before me stood Eli, his eyes wide with fear and uncertainty, but behind that glimmer of doubt lay a spark of courage. My heart soared at the sight of him, and with one final push, I broke through the remaining darkness and collapsed at his feet. "Mom!" he cried, reaching for me, and the warmth of his hand connected with mine like an electric current, flooding my veins with an unparalleled surge of love. In that moment, I realized that together we were stronger than the shadows that sought to divide us. "Eli, we need to leave. They'll come for us," I urged, pulling him close as the shadows retreated slightly, struck by the brilliance of our unity. The malevolent figure that had haunted us flickered at the edges of the clearing, eyes gleaming with an ominous hunger, but we faced them together. "You're more powerful than you know," I whispered urgently, gazing into his eyes. But just as we turned to escape, a voice cut through the air like a jagged knife. "Running one to save you. The truth always finds its way back," it taunted, the shadows swirling closer, eager to reclaim the hold they'd once possessed over me. I held Eli's hand tightly, my pulse thrumming in rhythm with his. "Stay with me," I murmured, echoing a promise I had long since feared I'd lost. The truth would come at a price, but I would pay it without hesitation. Nothing mattered more to me than protecting my son. "Mom, what do we do?" Eli's voice trembled, but the strength in his grip reassured me. "We face them together," I replied, adrenaline propelling me forward as I steeled myself for the confrontation. "No more hiding." And in that moment, something shifted within me. I felt the weight of my past transform into armor, illuminating the stepping stones paved with moments of sacrifice and resilience. "Enough!" I roared, stepping toward the figure looming before us, shadows writhing at their feet. "You have no hold over us. The pain, the lies, they don't define who we are." The shadows recoiled slightly at my defiance, the flicker of warmth emanating from Eli and me pushing them back. The figure scowled, their features contorting with rage. "But the truth does. And you, dear mother, can't shield him from his own father forever." A rush of freezing air washed over me, but I clung to Eli as the past clawed at my memories, whispering threats in my ear. "You don't have the power anymore," I shouted, drawing upon every ounce of love, every moment I fought for Eli's safety. "His truth is not your weapon." With frantic energy, I leaned toward Eli, urging him closer. "We can't let them win. Remember who you are." I felt the connection between us intensify, a bond stronger than the darkness circling like sharks. Eli squeezed my hand, grounding me as I saw the flicker of understanding in his eyes. "What if the truth is painful? What if it tears us apart? Then we'll face it together." The power in my voice reverberated through the atmosphere, shattering the shadows like glass. "We are stronger than our fears." My recollections exploded into vivid clarity, all the choices, the struggles, the love that we built over the years. I took a breath deep enough to fill every crevice of my being, a river of warmth coursing through me, igniting courage. "You are my son, and together we can embrace the truth," I declared, pulling him against me. The darkness wailed in frustration, the figure snarling like a beast backed into a corner. "You're a fool to think love is enough. It can't save you. Watch us!" I screamed, raising our intertwined hands high. We are not your puppets. We own our past and our future. In a blinding eruption of light, the shadow screamed and melted away, retreating from the undeniable force of our connection. Before either of us could process what happened, together we stepped through the final barrier of darkness into a realm bathed in golden light. Eli, I breathed, collapsing into his embrace as tears streamed down my cheeks, a floodgate of emotion pouring forth. We did it. We're free. In that moment, standing under the warmth of newfound clarity, I saw the path ahead, a journey defined not by shadows or secrets, but by acceptance and resilience, forged from the truth we would face hand in hand. As the lingering remnants of darkness faded into oblivion, I whispered, voice thick with emotion. Whatever comes next, we will face it together. I promise. And the last echoes of our shared fears faded away, leaving behind the radiant promise of a future lit by love, resilience, and the unwavering bond that would forever define us. In that golden expanse, I knew, against all odds, we had reclaimed our story. Together, forever, Eli replied softly, and my heart swelled with hope. And as we embraced the dawn of a new beginning, the last lingering shadow whispered into the void, you have yet to see what will come next, but this time, we were ready. Together we would face whatever lay ahead.